WrestleMania 41 is in the books. Everybody is partied out. Las Vegas, showing the bright lights. And boy, was it it was a tale of, I guess, 2 days, which was 2 days. So, I mean,
it was indeed 2 days.
That was, it was. And we're going to talk all about it. And joining me in the studio to help me talk all about it, from Pro Wrestling Torch, he is my good friend, Brian Zilem. How are you, man?
Doing well, Stu. Pleasure to be here as always, and happy to try to, I guess, process what we watched over this weekend. Because
that's a good way to put it. Process. I always start these things. I want you give me a letter grade for WrestleMania as a whole.
As a whole, I would still give it a passing, but I'm probably giving it a C-.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now the way I'm evaluating this, Stu, I think this was probably one of the worst builds that they've had in a really long time. Now, The Rock was on Pat McAfee and shared some thoughts on
we're going to hear those in a minute.
What happened there, which is fine, but collectively, I would say, exception of maybe Jade and Naomi, everything was kind of just phoned in. Every multi-person, multi-women stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
And I would say they did not have the best PR week either.
No,
so
they did not.
Vibes are not, I would say, just from a vibe standpoint, from a perception standpoint, no good. But, I mean, obviously they sent out the press release today saying it was the most successful WrestleMania ever. So what do I know? What do I know, Stu?
What do we know?
I'm just a fan. I should just appreciate anything bad in front of me, according to Paul Levesque.
Yeah, I get that. And I'll be a little more forgiving. I'm going to give it a C+.
Okay.
Jade and Naomi was great. The triple threat for the women's world title I thought that was really good.
That was unbelievable.
That was really good. We got to start with the main event, though.
Whew.
And my God, I mean, all right.
So you've been in this field and industry for a very long time. We've got people like Dave Meltzer saying this was one of the worst WrestleMania events of all time. I don't know where I would necessarily rank it. Some people were comparing it to Cena and Miz, but worse. I haven't really collected my list yet, but people I kind of trust kind of put it in that atmosphere. And what's interesting is I didn't really see a lot of people push back or defend it.
No, this was kind of like what you mentioned. The build to this was not good. The match itself, it's so funny. So John Cena talked about he wanted to ruin professional wrestling. Well, if that was his goal, boy, he got a good start of it that on Sunday night, because that was, I don't know if I'd go so far as saying the worst WrestleMania main event of all time, but it is definitely in the bottom third at least.
Yeah.
That was just, well, I tell you what, I want to play a couple clips. So
I like that. Okay.
There is, first of all, I'm going to hit, and like you said, there has been it's been pretty much universally just panned as bad. Ariel Helwani on his show yesterday, I think his remarks sum up the majority of the wrestling fandom. Take a listen.
And when you don't explain 2 months later the partnership, the union with The Rock, when you don't explain really 2 months later the partnership and the union with Travis Scott, it feels flat. This should have been the crescendo of a year-long story that really started on the Monday after WrestleMania 40 with The Rock and Cody Rhodes, and it could have ended in a beautiful way yesterday, a year later, with The Rock showing up and Cody getting his revenge, or whatever it is, or even The Rock getting his revenge, whatever it is. The Rock doesn't even show up. This whole thing had to do with The Rock, dating back to last year in Philadelphia. And then, of course, in Toronto, and then he doesn't show up. And why is I still don't understand why Travis Scott is there. Still don't understand. Now, again, this is fun. This is entertainment. And I know he's doing the thing now. I'm going to ruin pro wrestling. I'm going to take the belt. And I get it. And I bet if someone was on the creative team listening to this to be like, just wait and see how it's all playing out. Well, I'm judging it right now, Monday, April 21st at 1:13 p.m. Eastern. Right now, it feels flat. Right now, there's too many holes in it. Right now, there was a thread, and someone took a scissor and cut it. There is no continuity anymore. There is no connection. What is the connection between Cena and Travis Scott? If you're telling us wait and see, well, what better time than WrestleMania to explain that connection?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, and he was probably a lot kinder, but I think he articulated that very well, Stu. And it, like you said, it's interesting because generally speaking, it will be split down the middle. And if you look at, I don't know, have you looked at Cage Match for Night 2?
I have not.
I was shocked because generally speaking, for a WWE show, the Cage Match folks will usually be pretty kind, but I'd have to double check, but I believe the main event got anywhere between a 3 and a 4.
Yes, I think I did hear about that.
Yeah,
yes,
which brought the overall showdown. You know they get the ladies, tremendous stuff. Somehow had to fight uphill, despite all that nonsense that they had to fight through. Yeah. And when you have a situation like Cena and Cody had to deal with, I don't envy them. I think they tried to make sense of it the best they could. I think, like Mr. Hawani said, there was just too many holes in that where they couldn't connect anything, and there was nothing to connect the thread anymore. And at least when nothing can make sense, you have to go out there and at least put a 4.25 star match out there to make up for everything. Because despite how bad that triple threat build was for those 3 women, nobody's going to be thinking about that anymore because that match was just off. They just let them go crazy.
It was really, really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but when John is calling spots with Cody Rhodes in the match, and I knew the match was going to be, I was really concerned on the quality. So the build and everything else had to be near perfect to get away with that, and
it wasn't.
No, and
the build might have been worse than the match.
And let's talk about that just for a moment, too, if you don't mind. I did not like any of the promo back and forth. Some people thought it got a little bit better as it progressed, but I just did not care about anything that they said. A lot of shots at AEW, which I was kind of just, we can't elevate our conversation a little bit. Like, this is your biggest show. Like, we still got to be doing pot shots about Vince and Jacksonville and Tony Khan. It just, like, John, tell us why you aligned with The Rock. You never said anything. Why are you aligned with Travis Scott?
And that was a big part of it was the fact that John Cena, the 3 weeks, the European tour was Brussels, Glasgow, and London.
Mm-hmm.
He basically did this very same promo all 3 weeks.
I agree.
Changed a few words, but it was basically the same promo. Blame the fans. That's heel turn 101. Yes. Every heel blames the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Give me something. You mentioned. Why not explain why you aligned yourself with The Rock? This may help. So, earlier today, Pat McAfee show. The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, was on the show. Not live, of course, not in person. He was by video conference from somewhere. So The Rock tried to explain why he was not at WrestleMania.
When we were moving forward with John, and this idea of him getting crowned at WrestleMania and becoming 17 and turning heel, and then being a heel champion, I knew then the best thing for the final boss, we've established this idea of Cody's soul. We can always come back to it. I did feel, and I made the call, I don't want to be involved in that. Step back. Let the final boss step back into the shadows. Let all the spotlight go to John. Let it go to Cody. Let's not make it about Cody's soul eventually or John's soul. No, let's let them do what they do. And I called John after Elimination Chamber, spoke to him, called Cody, and I said, I think the final boss's work is done. We've established it. We just pulled off the greatest angle in the history of professional wrestling, other than Hulk Hogan turning heel back in the 90s. I said, this is amazing. We have 6 weeks. Now, let's build. You guys go and crush it, and I'll be right there with you, and I'm always here if you need me, but I think it's best for the final boss not to be involved in that finish.
Okay. 2 things.
A lot of hair.
2 things. Number 1. So you insert yourself, and he talks about earlier about how he talked to Ari Emanuel about a month or so before Elimination Chamber, and this is where this is going. Mm-hmm. Now, he says Ari called him because they needed help selling tickets for Elimination Chamber. In the last 2 years, has WWE had problems selling tickets to anything?
No.
So there's that. So he gets inserted into Mania plans and everything, and we get to Elimination Chamber, and he does the slash, and Cena kicks Cody in the ding ding and all that. And then he thinks his work is done. Really? Then second, okay, so you want the spotlight to be on Cody and Cena. Then what in the, to use one of his phrases, what in the blue hell was Travis Scott doing there? A scrawny, I could take Travis Scott.
You could, Stu.
What the, I mean, I'm just, this was, okay, I just don't know. I mean, it was rock speak at its finest, and it cleared up nothing.
No, and like you had mentioned, according to him, prior to that clip that you played, he was just doing a favor because they were trying to sell some tickets. And if you listen to the interview, he kind of distanced himself from creative at least a couple times, which I found very, very interesting.
I found that one too.
So, again, Paul Levesque is not my favorite person, but that I don't envy that position he was in to try to make sense of that, especially now, supposedly, according to The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Levesque pitched the Cena turn. Now, if Levesque had that idea, for all intents and purposes, he should have been able to follow up everything. Now, if everything was just dependent on The Rock, then everybody's to blame. But according to Dwayne, Levesque was the one that came up with the Cena turn. So that tells me you had an idea, but then you didn't have anything. You had that great heel turn, but you had nothing to follow. Which to me, I don't even want to put it in that conversation with Hogan anymore because the follow up was horrific.
Yes.
I think on the moment in the night, it was one of the best things they probably have ever produced. Now, I will not put it in that conversation with NWO because it's just not. Because I don't understand why they chose to just, if you were going to do this, now logical thinking, Stu says most likely they probably should have. You probably could have gone just John Cena being John Cena and Cody being Cody, which is fine. It would have been very boring, and that probably would have been a little bit better than this. And then you had Cena turn, and maybe you do all this Cena turn on WrestleMania.
Actually, Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live had that very theory.
Yeah.
Maybe the theory was to turn John Cena heel at Mania. I have been saying for the last, 6 weeks, whatever, since Chamber. I don't think, personally, now, again, I'm an old school wrestling fan. I cheer the baby faces, I boo the heels. In my opinion, the prospect of Cody Rhodes versus John Cena for the world title, you got basically the face of this generation versus the face of the last generation. You didn't need the heel turn. It could sell itself. And I get, they always want some conflict. All right, fine. But then The Rock gets involved, and we have this mess of a build, a bigger mess of a match. The funny thing was, talking with the Ariel Helwani clip, before that, just before what we heard, he talked about how John Cena feels fake. It feels like it's not legitimate. He's not legitimately a heel. He doesn't have the look because it's the same John Cena.
To me, aesthetically, that's a huge problem.
Same music, same look, everything. It feels like he's playing a part, and that's it.
Yeah, at minimum, he could have. I believe Travis Scott has some form of shoe. He wear the Travis Scott shoe and show, hey, this is the shoe that kicked Cody Rhodes' ass. I mean, this is his bare bones stuff, and I just, of course, there's shots today going on their big whiteboard because of that Netflix series that they're trying to do, the writers' room, which. Fine, whatever. They're just trying to throw some content out there, but then
that's fine.
But then you've got people like Sean Ross Sapp and Dave Meltzer reporting this back in December, that The Rock was never going to be a part of anything, and people got really mad. And of course, the Dwaynes and the Brian Gowards were trying to discredit everybody. Mm-hmm. And today everybody really looks silly, and The Rock looks his interview did not help anything at all. If anything, it's caused more questions. It's presented more questions. Is there a power struggle? Does anybody know what's going on there? Is Ariel of TKO just doing stuff over Paul Levesque's head without him knowing it, what's going on?
And that's the thing. The notion, I would say the notion is they had a plan for Mania. Dwayne The Rock Johnson comes in, tears it all up, and does his plan. And that is why I have said Dwayne The Rock Johnson should have stayed away.
Yep.
Go make movies, go do his thing. Do not get involved. And I'll say that now. Mm-hmm. He does not need to be involved in framing creative, in making these angles. He needs to just deal with doing his movies, and that's it. He got in the way, and this is the result. And it did nobody any favors. Made Cody look dumb because of the whole.
We haven't even got to that yet. I think that was one of my biggest problems. Cody looked like a geek.
He did,
like the biggest star.
And it pains me to say that.
He geek of the week, as Brian Alvarez would say.
Yes.
They've been building him for 3 years now as the guy, son of a plumber, and he could, like you said, he couldn't find any friends to force away skinny Travis Scott. You couldn't have had Ricky Stark or Ricky Saints come out or anybody. Cody has no friends. Where are all those friends from the title celebration last year? It just
exactly.
Yeah, and I just to do the switch based on just a number 2 Stu. I don't like that because I think that just basically tarnishes what Cody had to do to win the title, and then. Cody just to win it back in 2 months. I guess fine. I don't know. Like you said, there's so many other directions you would have gone. For me, if I had the pencil, I would have easily just booked Cody against Drew McIntyre because to me, Cody Rhodes needs conflict to be really remotely interesting because you saw in the build when you're putting him against a tweener, he's gonna get booed. And what happened on Friday? He got booed. And what happened on WrestleMania Night 2? He got booed.
Yes.
So that's not Cody's fault. He was trying to do whatever he could with the material he was given.
He's being the American Nightmare, the one we have seen for the last 3 years since he came back to WWE.
And, quite frankly, I mean, if we want to really I don't think they've really have done anything with him interesting his entire title run, exception of the Kevin Owens stuff, which was very, very good. I don't think they've really done anything interesting with him at all, which is super unfortunate. Maybe they felt like they needed to go switch, and now we'll talk Raw here a little bit, and that kind of led to what's next, which if I would have told you in 2019 we're getting a certain main event at a PLE,
Yeah.
you probably would have fell out of your chair.
Let's talk about the rest of WrestleMania. Jey Uso tapping out Gunther. Now, that was an interesting... I mean, I enjoyed it. Jey Uso's now the world champion. It was a serviceable match. But to tap Gunther out, that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, all along, I didn't mind the idea of trapping up Jey Uso because he's over. Why not? I mean, why not do something different? I'm for doing something different. That's completely fine. I didn't really care for the execution of the match, Stu. Just Gunther immediately tapped out. It just seemed like I don't know if it was just it took me away a lot, but it took a lot a credit away from Gunther's work that he's been trying to do. I just figured I'm glad they didn't give Jey Uso a banana peel win per se. So he submitted Gunther. That's fine, but I feel like there was a lot left there where it could have been better. I'm surprised Gunther didn't bust up Jey Uso, kind of like his brother. It might, or if anything, if you're gonna steal anything from AEW, do what Chris Jericho did versus Ishii. That would have enhanced my entertainment of that match quite a bit with the Gunther chops.
I see what you're saying, and yeah, it was a little odd. I mean, it didn't feel. It didn't feel like a Uso finish.
No,
the three splashes, fine.
Yeah.
That's Usos, but yeah, to lock Gunther in that rear naked or sleeper or whatever you want to call it.
I think you and I could have locked on a hold better than that, quite frankly. Now, no offense to Jey Uso, that's not his forte. That's fine. It looked like a John Cena STF where I feel like we've held children tighter than those holds, which in a perfect world, they probably should have main evented, quite frankly, and maybe that would have added to the vibe per se, because then you would have got your happy baby face moment, maybe. But they want to see what happens with it. I don't know what you really do with him next.
Yeah, I don't expect to see this as a lengthy title reign. I see it probably a few months, maybe to Money in the Bank, maybe SummerSlam, but probably not much past that.
Yeah.
The triple threat was Seth, Roman, and Punk. It was entertaining. I'll give it that. Seth getting the win, pinning Roman after Paul Heyman turns on Punk and then turns on Roman. That was a big wow moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was partly expected. I heard a lot of chatter that they could see something like that happen, and it did. It was entertaining. It was fine. But now, and of course now, you fast forward to Raw, and now it's Seth and Braun Breaker aligning with Paul Heyman. I've seen references to the New Dangerous Alliance going back to his stable he had in the early days of WCW. And no Alexander York. Terry Reynolds is not active anymore. What'd you think?
I'm kind of with you. I didn't really have as much fun as everybody else did. I think everybody was kind of just in awe with the, I guess Phil having his moment to a degree. I, again, would have not made this a three-person. This should have just been a singles match between Punk and Roman. I feel like maybe you could have had just a clean match and maybe one of them, they shake hands and maybe you still do this angle afterwards. I don't know, Stu. I'm not. This is a lot of Paul Heyman we've gotten, and he's kind of. How can I say this? They're really taking advantage of who they are as far as a corporate entity now, and Paul Heyman's really leaning into that, and that's not really my vibe.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Heyman to me is a really he's an overreactor to me. So if you're going to get a lot of Heyman here for the foreseeable future, which is, the direction, that's fine. Do I really need to see Seth and Heyman pair together? No, not really. I don't think Braun Breaker needs to be with him either, because I thought there was a potential to push him as a babyface ? But this is giving a new life to Seth, which I guess to a degree is good. This is kind of a rinse and repeat of Bloodline-ish. I mean, Punk and Roman teaming, I guess, is interesting, but
maybe I'm going to take a wait and see approach on this one.
Sure.
I think it's got a potential. We'll see what happens. Tiffany Stratton over Charlotte Flair retains the title. That was another match that, man, that
weird.
Was,
weird.
It was weird. There were moments where it felt like they went off script, I would say, kind of like that promo.
Mm-hmm.
It felt stiff. I'm glad Tiffany retained, because I think that was the right thing to do, because I think everybody was expecting Charlotte to walk out of there with the title.
I was too.
But man, it was a hard match to watch.
Yeah, and I told people this was the polar opposite of Mercedes Moné and Athena from Dynamite last week, where it wasn't, this 5-star classic as far as perfection in the ring. Sometimes you want to see a fight in there. You want to craft and be it. If it's a little messy at times, it's because they're tired, they're exhausted, they've been fighting and wrestling now for 20 minutes, so not everything's going to be so crisp. Yeah, this was just weird, and I don't think anybody, it's hard to say, was so-and-so sandbagging, I don't know. It was just, and it wasn't even that, because everybody was expecting the drama, which is even worse for those people. You didn't even really get that either. It was kind of just, sloppy at times, which is unfortunate, because I think both ladies have better in them. I would think it's in their best interest to move on and not run this back.
I couldn't agree more.
Just go, move on. Don't
just move on.
Yes.
Yeah. Dominic Mysterio is your new Intercontinental Champion. Wins he pinned Finn Balor. Wins the 4-way, of course. Braun Breaker, Penta, also involved in that match. The match itself was okay. The finish was, I think, that fed into the eventual split of the Judgment Day. Mm-hmm. And we saw a little bit of that last night on Raw with Dominic getting the win over Penta. JD McDonough comes back, and Finn Balor giving him the hard glances, then smiling, but it's the smiling with the thought of, I'm going to knife you here in about 5 minutes. But hey, Dominic Mysterio gets his first singles title on the main roster.
I mean, listening to the show, and I think Brian Alvarez said it felt like the stadium was shaking during, as Dom was going for the pin. So, I mean, everybody popped for Dom, and that's really good for him. Nice for him to get a WrestleMania moment. I don't think there's obviously been that many father-son IC title holder combos. I think
he's the first. I think they're the first.
Well, Mr. Perfect and Kurt Hennig, right?
Oh, you mean Curtis Axel?
Yeah, Curtis Axel. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, yes, you may be right. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm missing any other father-son combos there.
I can't think of any.
Yeah. In terms of that multi-person, where they were trying to go, it's fine. Obviously, Braun's doing bigger and better things. Will this eventually end up with Penta at some point? Probably. That seems to be the eventual direction that they're going. But it was fun.
I was happy for Penta to get a WrestleMania moment.
Yes.
I was happy for Rey Fenix. As much as I did, you hate to hear Rey Mysterio getting hurt. I was happy for Rey Fenix getting his moment against El Grande Americano. I was not happy that he had to take a loss.
Yeah, weird.
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of this El Grande Americano thing. I get what they're trying to do. It's trying to be silly. It's trying to be whatever, but I think it's missing the mark, especially now with WWE now owning AAA. There's just something about it that feels like, okay, you need to wrap up this storyline quickly and move on.
Seems like a very Vince booked angle.
Exactly.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
And it just, I thought about that. I'm with you, Stu, 100%. Now, if I'm trying to get in their mindset, I think they're doing this all along to set up some match between, El Grande versus Vikingo, which seems to be the direction they probably want to eventually go to. I really don't know if people have seen Vikingo. He's been really, really banged up. I would say his knees are almost as bad as Naito's at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be fearful for anything crazy that they would try to do. And we'll talk more AAA here shortly, but that seems to be the long-term direction that they're trying to go, I suppose.
Yeah. Randy Orton comes out saying he's ready for his open challenge. Who's going to step up? And the camera pans to the entranceway. Then all of a sudden you hear say his name and he appears. TNA World Champion Joe Hendry answering the challenge. Now it was obviously, it wasn't going to be. It was going to be a Randy Orton victory. Mm-hmm. I get it, but still, for Joe Hendry, who has been working his tail off for the last 15 years or however long. I mean, he was like a mid-carder at best in Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until the last few years, he was kind of at least an upper mid-carder in TNA. Not to mention the fact, if you had told me, well, I'll say it, even last year, that a non-WWE contracted wrestler would get a WrestleMania moment, I would have thought you were crazy.
Yep.
And yet, here's Joe Hendry, who is a TNA contracted wrestler. He's their world champion. He's got a title match coming up this Sunday at Rebellion, and Joe Hendry gets a WrestleMania moment. So I'm okay with creative. I'm thrilled for Joe Hendry.
Yeah, I'm with you, Stu. I just Joe's a very nice guy. Hopefully, I'll be able to reschedule and eventually chat with him. Just for everything it was perfect. Now I understand if you feel a kind of way because Randy Orton kind of squashed the world champion. I get that, but if you understand Joe's story, where he's come from, what he's done to get where he's at, to have two really cool moments happen in the same year, that's really cool for him. And I'm kind of nitpicky on stuff, but if you can't set aside on how cool of a moment that was for him, where Randy Orton apparently handpicked him.
Yeah.
Because, some people thought maybe it's going to be Rusev, maybe it's going to be Aleister Black. That was probably one of the high points of the night, too, for me.
Yeah. Jacob Fatu wins the U.S. title over LA Knight. Logan Paul beat AJ Styles. I have the same feeling about Logan Paul that I have about Travis Scott, and I get this. WWE is not about matches or athletics in the ring or anything like that. They are about the social media moments.
Yep.
And they are about getting mentioned, and that's why they include people like Travis Scott and Logan Paul. Now, I get it. Logan Paul's got talent. He can handle himself in the ring. That's fine. But to have him go over on someone with the lineage, the streak, the caliber of AJ Styles does not sit well with me.
No, and this was unfortunately, Stu, I think it went it was pretty close to almost 20 minutes. And this was one of those situations where this was just wrestling happening in front of me, and I just felt nothing. And like you said, it kind of, sometimes Logan Paul can kind of rise above and maybe get a reaction out of you. Not to say he's not athletic for trying to do what he does out there, for not really having, the history of, going to schools and working the roads and everything like that. He just has a pretty unique opportunity where he can kind of get in there and make moments. And I pose more kind of questions just coming out of this. This just really tells me, is AJ Styles on the way out?
I
don't know.
I want to say he's still got at least a couple years left on his current deal. Now he's a little older. The years, between TNA and New Japan and everything, his body has taken a toll.
Yep.
And I get the Logan Paul thing. I think it's not so much that he didn't, pay his dues, as they say, he didn't go to a training school or whatever. I think it's the notion, and it's the appearance, and then they could totally be for, just for the gimmick, that, he calls himself a full-timer, but he's not a full-timer.
Yeah,
he doesn't show up. He doesn't seem to really care about, doing things I'll say it, traditional way.
Yes.
It's, again, it's all about how many views he can get on his YouTube channel. And that seems to be his focus. And so, and I shudder for the day, if it ever comes, of Logan Paul winning a world title. And I'll be honest, it would not totally shock me. I will be disgusted, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, I think it might be a half step above giving the world title to David Arquette.
Ugh. Yeah, and that's another thing. He says he's a full-timer, and when's the last time he's actually had a match on television?
Yeah.
Months?
Exactly.
Like several months?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So. Okay, here's this is where I have a problem. This, the hot potatoing titles. Becky Lynch. So they have the quote unquote mystery attack on Bayley. It was going to be Bayley and Lara Valkyria challenging Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez for the women's tag titles. Bayley gets attacked, quote unquote, on Saturday. Adam Pearce tells Lyra she's got 24 hours to find a tag partner. We get to WrestleMania Sunday. The tag partner ends up being Becky Lynch. Okay, great. They got the pop. Becky Lynch is back. They get to the ring, and they win the titles. Not the greatest match, but they win the titles. Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. Then we fast forward to Monday Night on Raw.
24 hours
24 hours later. Liv and Raquel get an immediate rematch. Liv and Raquel win back the tag titles. And then Becky Lynch turns on Lyra.
Yep.
Why didn't they just do that at Mania?
Yeah, I've got... Yeah, I actually gotten some heated I guess I would say very deep discussions on this, Stu, because I was not a fan of it like you. Now, it was pointed out to me that the thread of Becky and Liv does make sense. I will acknowledge that, because obviously Liv did beat Becky in her last match in the steel cage, so they're obviously picking that back up, which, okay, sure, if you want to make that, sense of it, fine. I will say, universally, people were very, very upset that Bayley didn't have this moment when she's fully healthy, first and foremost.
Yes.
Now, Paul Levesque went on record and said, don't worry about Bayley, she'll be fine. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. I understand they want to create and put over Lyra with Becky, which is fine. Like you said, you could have easily done this on WrestleMania and been fine. Or maybe you just don't do this match on WrestleMania. Maybe Bayley gets John, or well, maybe you still do the match. Maybe they win, maybe they lose. But then you try to have a rematch, because I guess you can have instant rematches just because. Why not? You have jumped Bayley Monday night and then have Becky just turn up and just do the same thing on Raw. I don't know. It seemed like a pointless title change, which was silly.
It was.
I think you can just do a feud with Lyra and Becky without all that nonsense. This is just the way to turn Becky, which I find, I guess Becky in theory is more entertaining as a heel, I suppose. But even though, what's her schedule? I don't. Is she a full timer? Like what's going on with her?
I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, she told people as recently as a week or two ago that she was not coming back, at least for a while.
Yep.
And then boom, she's back. So by the way, we got NXT on the television, and I had to look twice. They were showing clips from Bloodsport because they had Charlie Dempsey and Tavion Heights from No Quarter Catch Crew, NXT wrestlers,
there you go,
that competed at Bloodsport. So they were showing a GCW show on WWE programming. Again, that's wrestling in 2025. There you go.
That's crazy.
New Day win the tag titles from the War Raiders.
Fine.
I still call them War Machine.
Yeah.
They're my boys. A couple other things that happened at Raw the night after. We had the return of Rusev.
We did.
The worst kept secret.
Yes.
He looked great.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's lost a little weight.
I think so.
But still looks like a badass. So good on Rusev. So we mentioned Jey Uso pinning Gunther, or tapping Gunther, and during our Raw we had the celebration with Jay and Jimmy and Sammy, and that was cool. So they come back from commercial break, and Gunther is like yelling at Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. And Michael Cole's trying to defend, say, look, you're the one that tapped out. Gunther rips the headset off of Cole and then slaps the, sleeper or rear naked on him. McAfee runs in, punches Gunther to rescue Cole, and then Gunther slaps the rear naked on McAfee and basically chokes him out. All right. I will reiterate what I heard Jim Ross say once. Nobody wants to see commentators take bumps.
No.
So why did you have Gunther, the night after he loses the world title, attack the commentary team?
Yeah, he could have been paired with any goober in the back or, local wrestler, and he could have just killed him, ragdolled him, and probably bloodied him up pretty good. Look, Gunther just signed a very long-term deal and got his, got a bag, got a bus, apparently, according to him, which is great. Everything about last night just seemed like, whatever, hey, pitch me any idea, I'll do it. It's fine. It's not going to affect me. I'm getting paid. It's fine. But it was weird how it was doing it. Some people kind of don't really care for McAfee either. So Gunther came off looking like a heel, or a baby face in some eyes. And then McAfee didn't even sell the choke. I don't think at all on his show.
No, on his show today he didn't necessarily.
Okay.
It was just. It took all the air out of the IC title match with Dominic and Penta.
Yes.
Because, so Joe Tessitore comes out, he's going to help on commentary. Michael Cole comes back. But the focus is really on what happened to Cole and McAfee.
Are they really trying to do Gunther and McAfee?
I hope not, because I mean, look, Pat McAfee's a fit guy. I get it. Former kicker for the Colts. I get all that. He has no business being in the ring with Gunther.
No, I would.
So then what happens? Does McAfee call somebody? Does he get, I mean, it just, I don't think there's a good way for this to end, to be wrapped up.
The only thing, I'm just pulling stuff out of my rear and thin air, Stu, could this be a situation where Gunther challenged McAfee with better judgment declines, and maybe this is a kind of an avenue pathway for a returning Ilya Dragunov, maybe McAfee gets Dragunov to fight his fights for him.
That may be it. We don't know when Dragunov is going to be coming back, because he had a pretty serious, knee injury and all that good stuff. And
yeah, and that's really the only thing logically I could think of.
Maybe, but again, and that's the thing. The one report I've seen, he's still not cleared, and they're not sure when he will be cleared. He will be cleared eventually,
just don't know when.
But don't know when. So so then what? So I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it. It just felt kind of
yeah.
So, mentioned it earlier. They made the announcement on Saturday, and you saw all the luchadors standing on the podium, all the WWE wrestlers, and then there was El Hijo del Vikingo with the announcement WWE has acquired AAA. They did this through a sports and entertainment company out of Mexico called Philippe, I think it's called.
I believe so.
So this is like the biggest. This is like the biggest acquisition probably since they bought WCW.
Yeah. Are AEW buying ROH or no?
No.
Okay.
No. Not even close. Because AAA, arguably the second biggest promotion in Mexico next to CMLL. And now you've aligned with WWE, with TKO Group. Now the line right now is that AAA will do AAA.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have this Worlds Collide event on June 7th, which will be the same day as Money in the Bank. They're going to do NXT and AAA at the Kia Forum during the afternoon. And then, of course, Money in the Bank will be that evening at Intuit Dome. Give me your thoughts on AAA now a part of WWE.
Weird. I also just the timing of everything is just so. It's just kind of funny how AEW announces the joint show with CMLL in Mexico and then just conveniently just pops out of nowhere. Maybe I'm sure stuff like this takes some time. It just Brian's putting his tinfoil hat in and just says that's really convenient timing there, Paul and Nick Khan, who's Nick Khan. He went on his media tour last week as well, so he was kind of spitting a lot of stuff. The cynical part of me, Stu, just gathers and thinks this is AAA is going to be rebranded as, for whatever reason, Paul Levesque has this obsession with having different regions of NXT.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. This seems to be where this could be NXT Mexico, which is fine. I don't really foresee any main roster interactions. I don't know their roster up and down. I know there's problematic people on that roster that don't need to be involved with anybody there. And
Alberto El Patron, who is their current mega champion, if I'm not mistaken.
And also there was some very serious issues with Stephanie Vaquer that just were never really addressed at all. And, Conan, he's not really the nicest person either.
Yep.
And I don't know. Could they just buy it and clean house? Probably. I mean, I wouldn't pat. It seemed like they weren't really interested in the the people. They just wanted the infrastructure where they didn't have to build it from the ground up. I don't know. I'm not a businessman. I just the way I look at it. And also, I don't know if you knew this, too. AAA is on Max, so I don't know if that's like, so it does air on Max in Mexico. So I don't know if that's an extra kind of little dig towards AEW. I don't know what their viewership is. It's probably not a lot. I mean, I remember a month ago when I was in Mexico, I just looked up and I said, hey, JBL's on my screen and I'm watching AAA. I just didn't really understand what was going on. Yeah. So best of luck to them. I just, for anybody that's actually employed, I hope they don't lose their jobs, but it just seems like they're going to just use the infrastructure and build it up. I believe I saw something today where, do you know the name of the gentleman in NXT that really does the awesome video packages?
Jeremy Borash.
I believe he's going to be involved in some.
Yes, I saw that report as well. Borash was a big part of TNA for a long time. He's the one that he was the one behind most of the Broken Matt Hardy stuff, and has been a part of that for a long time. Same thing with, and of course he does the same thing now with WWE. And you're right. He supposedly is going to be part of the
booking committee.
I suppose.
It's just weird, Stu. Because
it is weird.
Yeah, I don't like. I see what they're doing. I don't like what they're doing just because you take this in consideration. You've got the WWE ID program. You've got everything else going on, and I don't like when wrestling is monopolized. Everybody kind of always gives AEW a hard time because they never want to put people over. But you know what? They're not trying to buy out everybody either. Now, will they potentially? If they're interested in a wrestler, will they offer their contract if they're a free agent and it's not tampering? Sure. That's a completely different conversation. I just get this weird pit in my stomach where, I like to listen to you and visit with you at indie shows where it might be really hard to see that in the upcoming years and months if this is going to be the direction of monopolization, which is even more strange because they don't even need the content.
No, they don't. They got too much content as it is.
Yeah, and I just don't. Are they just trying to just have that infrastructure so they can get more wrestlers from Mexico in the pipeline because they're so desperate for those Hispanic stars?
Well, and that's the thing. There were the rumors forever and a day about they were going to try to buy Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan. Because they wanted a foothold in Japan. They can't get it with New Japan because New Japan's aligned with AEW. So get the second biggest promotion. So, and we saw, in fact, there was a picture floating around. Oh, I think it was Triple H and Marufuji.
Oh no, it was Shawn.
Oh, it was Shawn. Yeah,
it was Shawn.
Shawn Michaels with Marufuji, and Shawn Michaels is holding the GHC Heavyweight Championship. Because Marufuji is the current GHC Heavyweight Champion, M. Noah. So, yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't. I hope it doesn't lead to monopolization. We've been through that once already. There needs to be various promotions, and so I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
So. He is Brian Zilem. Check everything that he writes out at Pro Wrestling Torch, pwtorch.com. Brian, what else? Is there anything else we need to plug?
No. Well, hopefully, next couple months, I guess I'll hopefully be busy. Right now, we've got it on the books to do Double or Nothing next month, so that'll be fun. And Stu, hopefully, we'll see you out there for All In.
Yes.
And
head up I-35, you bet. So.
We got that, and that'll be a busy weekend and a fun weekend because we'll actually have a Saturday pay-per-view to actually watch at 2:00.
At 2:00 in Globe Life Field. So
in the air conditioning.
Yeah, thankfully it'll be air conditioned because they'll have the roof closed. So.
Yeah,
Brian, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Stu.